Well, don't take it out now. Stand on business. Stand on business. You wanted everybody to hear ends. That's what y'all wanted. So, you know what I mean? Anything now is just a farce at this point. Look, aren't you the Film Academy? Would you call this a truthful performance? You taking it out after the fact? Would you call, I don't believe your performance. I need more realism from y'all. Y'all wanted to leave the ends in, leave the ends in. Shout out to all the subscribers and the members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. My name is Reese Waters, and this is Racist of the Week, where we explore the stupidity and hypocrisy of discrimination in hopes we can build a more perfect union. And also laugh. As usual, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Racism. And of course, if you have any nominees, you can drop them in the comments. You can email me at admin@reesewaters.com. Today's nominee, the British Academy Film Awards. England. What y'all got going on? Y'all trying to get a head start on the World Cup? I thought we was cool. Y'all been kneeling to say no to racism and all that. What happened? What y'all do to Meghan Markle? It wasn't Meghan Markle? It was Idris Elba? David Oyelowo? John Boyega? Daniel Kaluuya? What happened? Delroy Lindo.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
Now, I can't be the only one who saw that, and the first thing that occurred to me was, of all the people that I would drop ends on, the last one is Delroy Lindo.
You have African-American rappers saying N-word this and N-word that, but a Caucasian can't.
So say it.
I'm not saying that I want to say it, I'm just saying that I can't.
Sure you can. Say it right now.
The BBC has apologized for not editing out a racial slur from its BAFTA Film Awards coverage after a guest with Tourette syndrome shouted out when two black actors were on stage. John Davidson, whose life story inspired the film I Swear, shouted the N-word as Sinners stars Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo presented the first prize of Sunday's ceremony. I knew something had to be up. You said he had Tourette's. I knew something had to be up because ends was dropped despite the existence of that video of Delroy Lindo. Not to mention Sinners. I seen Sinners. Michael B. Jordan wasn't playing. And I seen all the creeds and everything. I know they actors, but they had to train. The moment was not edited out of the BBC One broadcast, which was shown on a 2-hour delay and remained on BBC iPlayer on Monday morning before the ceremony was removed. A BBC spokesperson said, "We apologize that this was not edited out prior to broadcast. It will now be removed from the version on BBC iPlayer." I'm sorry, come again? I'm sorry. Did you just say that you pre-taped? You pre-taped and decided to leave it? Well, don't take it out now. Stand on business. Stand on business. You wanted everybody to hear ends. That's what y'all wanted. So, you know what I mean? Anything now is just a farce at this point. Look, aren't you the Film Academy? Would you call this a truthful performance? You taking it out after the fact? Would you call, I don't believe your performance. I need more realism from y'all. Y'all wanted to leave the ends in, leave the ends in. In a statement, the BBC said some viewers may have heard strong and offensive language during the BAFTA Film Awards. This arose from involuntary verbal tics associated with Tourette syndrome, and as explained during the ceremony, it was not intentional. I got a question. I will not claim to be an expert on Tourette syndrome, or really anything other than gummy bears. Okay, we're just asking questions here. Does it make you racist though? Like, I've seen people with Tourette syndrome before. I've never known racial slurs, but also like racial, like accurate racial slurs. I mean, how many black presenters did y'all have? He happened to yell ends when 2 black presenters were on stage?
Some of you are getting on my last God-given nerves. The fact that I have to come up here to break down for you the ABCs 1, 2, 3 do-re-mis of racism, because some of you have the bombastic audacity to want to litigate the racial intent of a white man and absolve him of racism because of his disability. Now, I'm going to make time for you today. Let me say this in plain English because I'm not speaking Latin or Swahili. John Davidson is a racist white man with Tourette syndrome. And let me break this down for you. Tourette syndrome is a disability. Disability is not racism, and it does not make you racist. The Tourette syndrome simply brings out what is already in the heart, mind, and soul of the person speaking. Because as a man thinketh, so is he. The word is not a Tourette syndrome condition. It is a racist condition. That word is in John Davidson's bank of vocabulary, and all the Tourettes did was bring it out. Oh, I know what it's like to have intrusive thoughts, but the moment those intrusive thoughts become actions or words, the impact is real. For those of you woeful and willful ignoramus out there, racism does not require intent to be racist. It doesn't matter if you meant to be racist, you did it with depraved indifference, or it happened because you have a disability. The racial impact on black people as they watched Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo be racially abused on the global stage was instant, because we all knew exactly what they were thinking, what they were feeling, why they switched on and kept on moving. We knew what it was. We were in that moment with them. That impact is freaking racism.
The corporation declined to comment further on why it wasn't initially edited or bleeped out. After the ceremony, Lindo told Vanity Fair that he and Jordan, quote, did what we had to do as they carried on presenting the category, but also he wished someone from BAFTA spoke to us afterward. I'm sorry, did you say nobody from BAFTA spoke to you afterwards? So you pre-taped and you left it in, and then after the fact, didn't bother to address it with the actual presenters on stage. So as far as they were concerned, they were just supposed to deal with ends being thrown and keep it in stride. I guess Meghan Markle was supposed to give them the skinny on being an American black in England. You know, ends gonna happen. You know, was that y'all did? Bruh. Look, we will deal with the nature of the condition. Y'all don't have one. Okay, BBC, y'all don't have one. Tourette's is characterized by sudden, involuntary, and repetitive movements or sounds known as tics. Between 10 and 30% of people with the condition have tics that produce socially unacceptable words, such as swearing, according to the Tourette's Action Charity. Davidson, a Tourette's campaigner from Scotland, who was made an MBE in 2019, shouted loudly several times before and during the BAFTA ceremony. BAFTA said it took the duty of care to all its guests seriously and it started from a position of inclusion, taking measures to inform attendees of Davidson's presence and that they may hear strong language. Okay, that's a lot of words. That's a whole lot of words. What I need to know, were Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan specifically informed of the situation beforehand? Because we know you didn't talk to them afterwards. We know they were just supposed to take it in stride after the fact. Were they led to ends unaware? That's what I need to know. Were they led to ends unaware?
Say what? Say the word you want to say.
And I just can't for the life of me imagine literally not cleaning it up after the fact. That part is wild to me. Somebody call Stormzy. Stormzy know about this? Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage at the time, and we apologize unreservedly to them and to all those impacted. We would like to thank Michael and Delroy for their incredible dignity and professionalism. And then there's that part. The part where you are placed in a situation, apparently unawares. You are placed in a situation where you know if you were to justifiably react with some level of melanin, let's call it that. If you were to react with any level of melanin, that's the only thing they would see. That's the only thing they would see. So you just gotta take it in stride. Oh, Chris Rock? Yeah, Chris Rock did take it in stride too, didn't he?
Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Jordan's former co-star on The Wire, Wendell Pierce, posted, "It's infuriating that the first reaction wasn't complete and full-throated apologies to Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan. The insult to them takes priority. It doesn't matter the reasoning for the racist slur." Oscar winner Jamie Foxx added in a comment posted on Instagram, the slur had been unacceptable. And amen to that. Consider me on Wendell Pierce's side of just about anything. He has a phenomenal social media presence, by the way. You should make sure you follow him. The fact that they didn't make that a priority is wild. The fact that this was pre-taped, which I can only imagine the assumption was, what's the big deal? You know what I mean? What's the, you know, they just, we say that every day. You know what I mean? You know, it was the editor. It was the editor, and apparently the editor is an avowed racist. So he's kind of ear blind to that. Now here's where you got me all the way messed up. Elsewhere, part of an acceptance speech, including the remark, "Free Palestine," was edited out of the BBC broadcast. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell. Bruh, I could have sat here and said, what if somebody said "Free Palestine," would that have been edited out? But somebody literally said "Free Palestine" and you edited it out.
I'm not even going to keep you for too long. I just want to ask one thing. What if the vocal tic had been "Free Palestine"? Explain that to me. If the vocal tic that had taken place at the BAFTAs had been "Free Palestine," would that have been edited out? So if that, because we know that it was edited out, "Free Palestine," when Akinola Davis Jr., my G, said it during his speech. That was edited out by the BBC because the ceremony took place and wasn't aired until 2 hours later. But then for some reason, the N-word being hurled at Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, that was left in. A disability is a disability. My thing is, there was a lack of safeguarding from the organisers, from the BBC who were broadcasting it, and from BAFTA as a whole. There is an issue here, and the way that I would say white institutions decide and prioritize what is harm and what isn't. Whether it was intentional or not for the word to be said, it doesn't change the impact that it has on those who it was said to, directed at, and those who had to hear it. Racism, one of the mechanics of it is humiliation. I can't speak for the two men who experienced that, but I would argue that it's humiliating. And then essentially people are doing all of this mental gymnastics to be like, well, nothing we can do. These things just happen. They're involuntary. Whilst I understand that, that does not diminish the impact of who, those who are experiencing it. And this is just a microcosm of what Black people generally face in society anyway. And I would like for the American Black History Month that we're currently in, some of you need to stop explaining to Black people how they get to feel about things that are only directed towards them in that moment. So I ask again, explain it to me like I'm 5. If the vocal tic had been Free Palestine, what would the BBC, what would BAFTA have done then? All right.
Now, this is quite obviously led to a lot of conversation and controversy online about whether or not what he said was intentional, whether or not he should have been made to leave, the level of responsibility that he holds. But let's move past one point before we go forward. BAFTA is trash. Can we at least, no, because we gonna have the conversation about Tourette's. What does BAFTA have for leaving it in, huh? Can we get past, can we agree on that? Can we agree? Okay, all right. And we can't agree on nothing. How about that? All right, we can't agree on nothing. What about, no, we're not calling a cigarette that. No, see, we can't agree on nothing. We only agree, all right? Let's move past that. Now, not only did they leave it in, they didn't clean it up and didn't address what was said, because you can't tell somebody else how to feel when they hear that kind of offense, especially when it happens in public while they're on stage. Now, I found this particular thread to be eye-opening. From Narendra Kaur. Tourette's campaigner John Davidson shouted ends while they were on stage at the BAFTAs. I'm sorry, this is wildly acceptable on so many levels, mostly so from BAFTA. We can all understand he has a condition, but this is subjecting Jordan and Lindo to racial trauma, which everyone needs to understand is unacceptable on every level. The fact that they apologized to the BAFTA audience publicly, but not directly to Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan, continues the tradition of prioritizing white comfort over Black trauma. To which we get Tourette syndrome causes uncontrollable tics, meaning Johnny cannot control his actions due to this medical condition. So does that mean the words have no meaning then? Is that? I'm just trying to figure out, like, is that why BAFTA left it in? Is that why? Because apparently they saw fit to apologize to everybody else for it. Apparently they didn't care about the people that watched it back because they left it in. From Jamel Hill, asking for more grace for the person who shouted a racist slur instead of for Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, who had to push through being embarrassed in front of their peers. But that's often the expectation, that Black people are just supposed to be okay with being disrespected and dehumanized so that other people don't feel bad. And why can't white people ever understand that Black people are allowed to be upset when dehumanizing language is used against them? Like, you can explain things, but you can't tell people how to feel from a slur being used. And it certainly doesn't help, when you don't explain things. That doesn't help either. White Brits using the BAFTA incident to be condescending towards Black Americans about racism and intent, while they twiddle their thumbs and make excuses for anti-Black racism towards Black Brits on the daily. Okay, that's a good point. You're really not operating from a place of strength here when it comes to the racism. I did mention Meghan Markle earlier, didn't I? Yeah. I wouldn't involve myself in no conversation about racism if I was coming from that place. And then there's this part. If your condition made you blurt out anti-Semitic slurs at a nationally televised awards event, Keir Starmer would be outside Downing Street issuing a public apology tomorrow morning. But when it's racism against black people, suddenly there's nuance. We must take pity. Then there's that part. Then there's that part. And it's hard to argue with that point when you edit it out, Free Palestine, which apparently is a slur worse than ends. You know what I mean? That's nuts, man. That is, that's going to really hurt the cleanup process. I can tell you that right now. I've learned a few things tonight. Apparently, black disabled people don't exist. Apparently, black people's dignity being violated is absolutely fine and dandy to be a teachable moment for everyone else. The problem is you for even considering their dignity or well-being. Well, now you raise a very interesting point, because I would be fascinated to understand the perspective of a black person who knows this condition. I think that would be valuable here.
I have Tourette syndrome. I was diagnosed over 30 years ago. As you might be able to tell, I'm also a very proud black man. I also have Coprolalia, which means I sometimes tic socially unacceptable words, including the N-word. So you might imagine I have some thoughts on the BAFTA controversy. Let's go. So I know everyone has a lot to say on this incident, a lot of anger and outrage, which I understand, a lot of opinions. So I want to make sure we're able to put that outrage and required empathy in an intersecting controversy and issue with the information that's needed on a complicated thing. When I was elected over 15, 16 years ago, I was thought to be the first elected official with Tourette syndrome. And thankfully that is no longer the case. And people with Coprolalia only make up about 10 to 30% of people who actually have Tourette syndrome. It's important to remember that it's not just a lack of a filter, it's an involuntary compulsion, whether it's vocal or body movements, and it can also include very bad intrusive thoughts. Now, before I was diagnosed, my mother saw a 2020 special. It actually had a man who was white, and his tic was one of his tics was the N-word. This was over 30 years ago. I'll pause there because I'm going to come back to it in a moment. Now, obviously, we want to practice care when we're speaking about the person who has Tourette syndrome, who is the ticker, because they also require some grace and some consideration. Regardless of the reason, a word like the N-word can cause a lot of harm. There's some spaces where it's not just about whether you're making noise, whether you're moving in a way that people might be a little uncomfortable. This is a very specific thing. So I'm only speaking about the N-word and use of it in different spaces. You also have to provide empathy and care for people who are receiving it, like Delroy Lindo, like Michael B. Jordan, like the thousands, if not more, of people who heard it. They deserve some care and compassion as well, and I believe that's where the ball was dropped. I don't think there was enough care that was provided. And there's some ways I want to talk about how we could have and how BAFTA and others can do better in the future. Back to that 2020 special. That white man who had tics of an N-word, what he used to say was nickels, pennies, and dimes, and he augmented it in a way.
Ignore how I look right now. Critical retention. I am not feeling too great. However, there is something I have been asked to talk about, and that is going to be the BAFTA situation. I have been seeing a bunch of outrage about it, people saying, oh, well, why would that even be in his vocabulary? He did that on purpose and all of this stuff, and that racism is to excuse. A very sad day for the Tourette syndrome community, especially for the ones that have Coprolalia, because when you come online and you see thousands of people hating on your condition, specifically Coprolalia, because that's something that is already very embarrassing for all of us. I'm not going to say that people can't be offended by the fact that somebody said the N-word as a tic. However, it's not something that somebody can control. It's not something that somebody wants to say. And I've been seeing a lot of people be like, well, he said it like when the crowd went silent. That is most likely when a tic is going to happen when you're in public, when you're in complete silence, or when you're trying not to say or do something. So we must understand what Coprolalia is. Coprolalia causes involuntary swearing and inappropriate tics. This can include the N-word, slurs, etc. I am a black person, and even I have the N-word tic and slurs as tics. This is something I don't see many talk about because of situations like this. I am seeing a ton of people saying, oh my god, during Black History Month? Tourette syndrome is not based on a month. Offensive tics are gonna happen no matter what a person does. I'm black, oh my goodness, and I also have the N-word as a tic. I have other slurs as tics. Does this mean that I use them regularly? Does this mean that I mean them? Does this mean that I can control what I say? No, it does not. That's not how Coprolalia works. That is not how Tourette syndrome works. Quite literally the Sweet Anita situation all over again. Shut up. Where she ended up saying the N-word on stream. She got canceled for it, got called racist, etc. We need to do better.
Now, I find that to be particularly instructive here. There was also the experience of one of the actors that was on set.
I'm one of the actors in I Swear. I play John Davidson's lawyer. And if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. In the scene, I'm representing him because he's just got into trouble. And I'm representing him, but at the same time, he's hurling abuse at me. And it's very offensive words. Now, this is the condition, the disease of Tourette syndrome. John cannot control what he says. In fact, that's the whole point of why we're making this film. We've made this film, I Swear, is to educate people about Tourette's syndrome. And how can you say that he can't be there at the awards? This is a film about his life. This is a film about him. Absolutely, he has to be there. And absolutely, it's great that he was there. And I don't know if some of the actors there were told in advance about someone with Tourette's being there. Hopefully they would have been told, therefore prepared for that kind of stuff that happened. Regardless, John has Tourette's. Enough said.
Well, I can't imagine that kind of working environment. It'd be like working with James Woods. That's wild. The last question that was asked about he doesn't know whether the actors were told and exactly how prepared they were. I would say that's particularly significant here. I would say so. But I do appreciate his experience, at least as far as where the ends were coming from. Now, I will spend my time on BAFTA and the fact that it was left in and you didn't see fit to clean it up with them at the time and you edited out other things and apparently didn't prep them for what they were walking themselves into and saw fit to apologize to the crowd and later to Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan, you know, once it hit the light of day. That is particularly garbage. Particularly garbage. And you are worthy of this Racist of the Week nomination. As far as the gentleman who was responsible, I don't really know that I'm in a position to class or characterize him one way or the other due to my lack of experience with this condition and what I've heard from people of color, black people who share this. Now, they could be British black MAGAs. For all I know, they could be British black MAGAs, and Lord knows, don't trust them when it comes to the accountability and responsibility. According to the black MAGAs, you could post monkey memes. Don't get me started with them. So, you know what I mean? I need to. This whole thing is wild. I swear, it really is. He didn't post no monkey memes, did he? He did. Okay, I was gonna say, because he could be president if he did. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Well, we did it. We finally hit another milestone.
Yay!
Hey, put your shirt back on. What you think, you in the cabinet? That's right, we passed 700. I ain't been this excited to pass 700 since I took my SATs. Oh. No, that was just on the math section. I didn't have a whole 700 score. Well, see, SATs used to be out of 1,600. You know, I'm not going to explain this to y'all. Y'all got me explaining the olden days, got me feeling old. I talk about the good old days and I get up limping for no reason whatsoever. Wikipedia is your friend. Yeah, boy. And as we always do, we gonna party. But I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to all the people whose work have led us here, starting with our editors, Denzel and Boz.
What? Bro, let's get straight to it. On my mama, we lit.
If y'all got issues with any of the videos, y'all blame them.
That's cold-blooded.
If you like it, then I did it, because I be editing sometimes too. You know when I edit, because the audio be all over the place. You know, the audio get loud for no reason. That's how you know that I edited something. And of course, I want to give a shout out to my man David Threefall, who is not only responsible for all of the thumbnails, but as well as creating the intros and the outros for Street Politics and Troubled Waters and Races of the Week. He did them all. Who Raised Y'all? He organized and created all of those intros and outros that you see and enjoy on the channel. So shout out to him. And by the way, if you're looking for any of that kind of stuff, make sure you give him a shout. I need it! One day I'm going to show y'all some of the outtakes, some of the rejected scenes from the creation of all of those. That might have to hit the members channel before too long. But if you're looking for any of that kind of work, you can hit me up at admin@reesewaters.com and I will pass you along to him. Of course, our head moderator, Mrs. Ray, always keeping things moving and keeping things on point. Shout out to her, as well as for organizing my email.
Yeah!
Wouldn't nobody get answers if it wasn't for Miss Ray. Y'all just be like seeing an old classmate in the grocery store. I'm just gonna keep it pushing. If he don't see me, he won't miss me.
What do you mean by that?
And of course, where would we be without Regina doing the Lord's work on research? She reaches far and wide, and all of the ways in which you guys always talk about how the clips are always on time and relevant, and all the videos are so in depth and you get so much good context. That is thanks to Regina. So shout out to her. But she been sparing Ohio. I've been seeing how y'all been moving Ohio. Regina's trying to protect you. It ain't gonna work. I got something for you. I got something for you. Of course, I want to give a shout out to all of our current mods, including lovely Nola, Deshauna, Kristen, and I believe Mimi is on the way as well. Shout out to her. And of course, I got to give a shout out to all the people over at Patreon, especially the people that keep the Patreon chat moving. Did y'all know we have a 24-hour Patreon chat? Patreon.com/Reese Waters. My man TP and Daniel Witters and Keith Green and Treva, so many people out there, as well as people that actually go from Patreon to YouTube and back again. April Hughes, Denatra, Joyce Samples, Sarge Tech, Roberta, all you guys so much. I really appreciate all of your support, all of your love, all of your encouragement, keeping this channel going and get us pushing to and past 700K. 700K? What, they think we buying Nicki Minaj bots? That's too high.